Well, good afternoon, and welcome to the show. It's good to be back uh, here with my parents, Daryl and Tina Furlow, and I'm Stephen Furlow. And I think we're just going to continue a conversation that I know has been going on somewhat today, and that's about, is religion harmful? The more I hear Dr. Jones talk about these things, the more I realize how much religion influences people's lives. I mean, it really influences every aspect. The way they treat. Well, I might as well just put it in the personal here. The way I treated when I was more wrapped up into religion than I am now. Um, the way I treated family members, the way I treated friends, the way I treated myself. My whole outlook on life was different, and not for the better. Um, I don't know. And hearing him talk this morning the way he did. And then a few testimonies afterwards. I don't know if we can get into that, but just at how divisive religion is, how controlling um, church can be. You're required to go to certain churches. You're required to be a certain way, almost the exact same as everyone else that goes there. I mean, I guess you're given a little bit of individuality, but for the most part, your thought life is controlled. Your theological pattern is controlled. Your philosophy is controlled, and that's scary to me. That's scary to think about how easily ensnared that I was at one point, and it makes me realize the need that there is for what this program is about, which is getting rid of all that, allowing people to think of on their own. I mean, I think about my children and what they could be going through right now if I were still ensnared in religion or a part of a so-called church, a denomination, a system of control. Where would my kids be? What would their future be like? And even now that I'm out of that, there's still so much of that going on around. Eventually, they're going to grow up and they're going to get out into the world. And I just hope that I can instill in them enough for them to not be ensnared by those things. I don't want to mold my kids into anything, but I want to encourage them in learning.
And you said it, mold your kids. This is what it's what I was taught. It's what I taught y'all when y'all were growing up to fit into a mold. And this mold was our religion. In raising y'all, we didn't put much emphasis on education because we wanted you to study the Word of God, quote, and to know it frontwards and backwards, memorize it. It's all you needed to know was what was in the Bible and what we taught you, And so education really took a back burner. And I'm so thankful that we've come out of all of that and can see the importance of being educated. I'm glad that a lot of you kids are going back to school. You're in college and you're studying and learning what we didn't know and free to be who you are. The Father is such a wonderful Father. He's made all of his children to be quite different. And why not let them be different?
Right.
Everyone is gifted according to how the Father gifted them. And to hinder that and try to force them into a mold is just, it's just not right. And I'm very thankful that we've come to this place in our lives of being more honest, being more open.
And to be specific about what Dr. Jones was talking about, the molds that I guess everyone was placed in, according to Paul in Ephesians, or was it Ephesians? Was that there is none righteous, and of course he was quoting the Old Testament.
Romans, actually.
That's
Yeah,
Romans, yeah.
Romans.
That's when I said Ephesians, I thought, no, that's not Ephesians, is it?
He was bouncing back and forth.
But he just spoke about the mold that was placed on everyone at that time, and it's still placed today. I mean, that's a huge focus of the church world today is how wretched we are, how disgusting we are, how unrighteous, how stupid, not able to seek. I mean, you can go down the list, and that seems to be the mold that we're fit into today outside of Christ, whatever they decide Christ's work is in your life. But what a terrible view that a father should have or would have towards his children. I mean, I can't imagine telling my kids how awful they are, how wretched, how unrighteous, how unworthy.
I always say that, if something's true, the truth may hurt. So if that were true, I guess we would have to admit it and just live with it, But the good thing is it's not true. And, really what we're talking about here, religion, is a way of life. And it's a way of life that separates. And, just the separation depends on what brand you have, what brand of religion. And I love the fact that when Jesus came to earth and spent time here, it seems like that's one of the foremost things that he dealt with, is that separate mindset. And the Apostle Paul really brought that out. The fact that what he did was he annihilated that. He broke down the wall that divides, and that does come from the book of Ephesians, which, by the way, I am partial to that particular document out of all the canon that we have. That one in particular, knowing that it was a universal letter, it was written for all. I think we can just leave it at that, for each and every one. This is recommended reading for, everyone who's a human being. And it talks about the fact that, there's no barrier between us. In other words, I like to put it this way: we don't have to have hostility, in between any of us. That's something that can and actually has been eradicated. We just don't act like it because most people don't realize it, what's in them, what we have in us. And most of us, unfortunately, are hindered by this thing called religion that thinks it's good and it's okay to separate and divide us, and some be good, some be bad, and we get to define or make the definitions of that. I guess I've changed the subject a little, but not much. It's still the same category, I think.
Well, the Father's not against any of us. He's for all of us. And so there's no need in us being against each other. But there should be just a desire to get together with each other, to learn from each other, experience the giftings that are in each other, and come together and enjoy.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, back to the idea of being separate. Like I said, it depends on the particular brand, but I think it becomes an important issue when we come together and we sit down at the table, and the idea behind the New Covenant group of bringing everyone to the table. One thing that we all have in common is experience. Some experience or another. We've all been raised, we've been taught, we've been influenced by different things, different ideas, different ideologies, different theologies, unfortunately. But if we can actually bring everything to the table and open up and talk freely, I think the more we will find that we have in common in our experience. And I think that helps us determine where do we go from here. And I love the fact that at the New Covenant group, we, for lack of a better way to put it, just off the top of my head, we seem to have an attraction for atheists. You know, they love to come our way, and we love having them come our way. And, you know, to me, that it says a lot, because it seems like we were almost a repellent for most theists. And I think I understand why. And I say this on behalf, and I stand to be corrected, because I'm certainly not speaking for anyone who refers to themselves as an atheist. But I don't see them as having as strong an agenda. I'm sure there's an agenda there to some degree or another, but as most theists, because really theists, and I speak from experience, are trained to, you know, have an agenda. We've got to get people to a certain point, and, you know, some denominations, some aspects of religion actually require that. I mean, some get out and ride bicycles and go door to door. Others just try to win their community. Of course, not to get on the issue of hell, but the believers in hell really should have the strongest agenda of all, because, you know, I still propose that if I had really believed in hell, I mean, at one time I said I did, but I'm not convinced I ever really did, because if I really thought that such a place existed, I don't think I could rest until I knew no one was going there. I mean, at least I'd done my part to keep them from it. But I want to say one more thing, then I'll let y'all talk. I heard someone just today, and I don't mind naming names, and I know he wouldn't mind. His name's John Hagee, and he was referring to God as the great divider. He's the one that divides. And before he got through, he was accusing, as far as I'm concerned, not really doing an expose, you know, not really revealing who God is, but accusing him of dividing us. And he's the one that brings all this division to humanity. And I'm thinking, has he not read his own Bible? I mean, that's just the opposite of what Paul said, that, or the very book we're talking about, Ephesians, says that has been accomplished. The barrier has been broken down. And we're all just one body. And God is in us all. So what are you going to do with that? I happen to like that. That's been the most liberating thing I think I've read in my Bible. So.
You know, the sad part about not just the topic, is church harm or is religion harmful? I think that one of the biggest harms that I see is that we don't have factual evidence. You know, these guys, John Hagee, is it you said? You know, I would love to see him challenged in his facts and his proofs of why God is this way. How did he come to those conclusions, and how can he prove that? Well, just to get right down to it, how can he even prove that God exists? You know, but he's leading so many people astray by something that's not even factual. You know, we compare the theists to the medical field a lot. You know, you wouldn't want someone who has no facts about the brain to operate on your brain, and to go in there and say, oh yeah, I've read a book, you know, I'm gonna cut you open and see what I can do. I'm actually in an anatomy and physiology class, and we're barely even scratching the surface on the brain, and it's so complex. I've had a few classes, but I'm so far from being I'm years and years away from being a brain surgeon.
Well, you know, I want you to operate on my brain Needed.
No, I hope you're ready to die. But
Well, it's like Dr. Jones' post that he posted on Facebook this week, the Bible and a Spider-Man book. And above the Bible, he put proof God exists and proof Spider-Man exists.
yeah, I mean, I definitely catch the humor and the idea
Right.
behind it. I'm sure that there's probably a little more to the Bible than a comic book, but basically the same principles apply. If you can't prove either one, then
Right.
it doesn't prove anything. I mean, if you don't have the facts or the evidence about either one, then you're nowhere.
I know at this point, with what I've come to understand, what I've come to get honest about, look at honestly, I would hate to be given the chore of trying to prove God in this book from Genesis to Revelation.
Right.
I could come up with the idea that there's several different ones, but I don't think I could prove a God from that source. I can no longer harmonize them. I know that's what we're supposed to do as good Bible believers, but I guess I'm not in that category anymore.
Well, I guess that's one thing that the Bible and the comic book have in common is a lot of man's imagination.
Yeah,
True.
that's true.
Well, one of the issues of separation, and I think this is an important topic because, my wife and I, your mom and I, have really had to get real honest, about ourselves and about what we've been involved in. And, a song that comes to mind, y'all know me, I'm always thinking of a song to relate to. It's a Freddie Fender song, Wasted Days and Wasted Nights. It just seems like, so much of our time in the past, so many opportunities that we might have had ended up wasted because we had this mental blockage. And it's an idea, and it's in most of church. We weren't exclusive in this. I think you find this among most of Christianity, whether it be Catholicism, whether it be Protestantism, if there is anything besides that. And it's the idea of that there's a secular, and then there's, I don't know what, the kingdom of God. But it's like the goal is to separate yourself from that which is secular. We've got to, we can't be of this world. And, there's a notion in that anything that doesn't pertain to God or as we might think would further his kingdom, we need to avoid it. We need to separate ourselves from it. And I look now and I see what a hindrance that has been. Opportunities I won't have now because it's just too much water under the bridge, too late in life. But I will do all I can to see that my children, and in your case, you're kind of a late starter, but hey, it's never too late, to get a good education, get yourself in a position to, in what some would term in the secular scene, to not just do well for yourself and your family, but to be a true benefit to others, because it's, as you were talking about, a gifting. It's from your heart. It's something, an ability that you have that you can go forward in and make a difference in the world for people. And I think we might, if we really stretched it, and exaggerating here, place that kind of thinking in the category of love. Because, when we love, there is a desire to do for others. It's not all about me. It's not all about, and there's something about religion that it becomes all about yourself. We're so busy trying to be right and trying to make sure God's not mad at us and even possibly ultimately going to send us to this torture chamber. We're so busy with all that that we don't have time for one another. And that's one of the big differences I see, you know. I can't think enough about what we can do for those who are in, just for those who've fallen into the same trap that we were in for so many years. Just unable to think, unable to reason, unable to really function, especially to the capacity that we've been given the ability to.
Yeah. Well, you were talking about our opportunities, you know, going into the medical field. For me, there's plenty of other ways to make money and provide for your family, you know, but for me, going into the medical field, it is about loving people, because I have a huge desire to help people, and I'll even speak for my wife, and that is the same for her. She's, you know, going to school as well to be a registered nurse, and she amazes me at her desire to learn and to know, because she wants to take care of people. You know, there's a lot of disgusting things that we're going to come across that if you're just in it for the money, I don't think you'll be able to handle
Oh,
it.
you're right.
In the medical field, it can get pretty grotesque, but all that stuff is set to the side because genuine care takes its place. You know, she constantly puts herself in the position of the sick one and says, what would I want? How would I want to be taken care of? And she's been a huge encouragement to me, just even in just passing in school, because of her desire to learn. You know, just sitting on the front row, taking the notes, listening, you know, being in class. She's very studious, but it's because of a love that she has for people, her desire to make a difference. And money's really not even an issue. I mean, of course, we have to work to make a living, but to do something that you love to do and accomplish both at the same time is pretty awesome. But,
Oh, yeah. See, those are the things the kind of things that we should admire and compliment and enjoy about one another, and encourage, and motivate and help any way we can.
You know, and we're all like that in our own particular areas.
Mhm.
It's like Dad, when he goes to paint, he don't just paint to get the job over and to get paid. You know, he wants to really do these people a good job and satisfy the customer as well as make friends with them. And he gets lots of opportunity, you know, to befriend people in his line of work, and that's where his heart is.
yeah. Very trustworthy man, Dad.
Well, I enjoy what I do, and I think that pays off. But you know, sometimes, and I hope you realize I've been bragging on you, talking about as an encouragement, seeing you move forward with this, and seizing the opportunity, and just look forward to see, you know, how beneficial you can be in this. And I want to brag on someone else just for a moment. I'm really looking forward to Tuesday, going to Beaumont to a concert where your brother, Jacob, will be the youngest member of the civic orchestra that'll be performing Tuesday night. And, you know, for me, this is special. This is exciting, because these are things that we wouldn't have involved ourselves in the past, and we wouldn't have had this opportunity. But now, you know, it's a real thing, and we're probably, I dare say, we're enjoying it as much as he is, if not more. And just an ability that's not being passed over, because we're not stuck in a rut. We're not trying to meet some criteria. We can go ahead and be who we are. There's nothing wrong with it, you know. We're God's children. He loves us, and He's given us some wonderful things. We just want to share with others. That's simple.
Well, since we're in the bragging mode,
Yeah, let's have a little brag.
I want to appreciate and brag on somebody for a minute, and that would be the founder of this group, the New Covenant group,
Would that be Dr. Jones?
Dr. Jones. He's a man with an amazing capacity to think, to use his brain, and he could be doing a lot of things right now. I mean, if he wanted to move into the medical field, or if he wanted to
Certainly
into
making some money.
move into the teaching field, go into a college and be a professor. Anybody that's listened to him knows that he's intelligent. But it amazes me that he gives up all of that because he has a desire to see people come out of the things that we're talking about, the things that are that harmful, that keep people from being who they're meant to be, which is themselves, not what religion or a pastor or a church or a religion or a denomination tells them that they need to be, but just simply be themselves. And he gives up. We heard testimonies this morning about people that get threats on their life because they're going against the grain. They're going against their own churches. They're going against what the mainstream of religion is saying. And Dr. Jones is one of those. He gets threats on his life, but yet he continues to do what he does. So, Dr. Jones, if you're listening, we very much appreciate what you're doing.
Well, there's a vision there, and there's a realization of what can be accomplished by, number one, this message. I hate to say this, it sounds so trite. I can't think of a better word. I mean, everybody says this, but the true message of Christ, message of unity, a message of love. But I mean, it really is true to something that I don't think have been able to imagine. Most people can't imagine. I understand when Paul said, and as far as exactly how he was saying it in his language to the people he was writing it to at the time, I know at least I think we have a good idea of it. And he says, I pray that you may have power to grasp how deep, how wide, how long. What's the other one? High, long, and wide. The love of God is. That, I think, is the thing that is not known. I mean, most people haven't even imagined. And, but that's the number one thing. The number two thing, or not necessarily in that order, but the potential of getting people together, getting people to converse, to join a conversation. And that's what we're doing. That's what we're interested in. And we're not rejecting anybody. I mean, it's not that we're elevating the atheist and saying, hey, you're special above anyone else. But we're finding more of a willingness there to come because everyone's welcome. We want theists, we want everyone to come to the table and say, put it on the table. But now, one thing we're all going to have to be willing to do at some point is say, let's put it to the test. Let's compare notes. Let's see if maybe we can, this is just one of those things that can't be helped. I mean, it's going to happen. That see if we can find benefit one from another. I mean, really, that's what it's all about. And each contributing what he has to contribute. And we'll find something there for and from everyone. So,
yesterday I was at Terry's, our daughter's, and the kids were fussing. The kids were just going at each other and they wanted to tattle and they wanted to hit and that sort of thing. And she stopped them and she said, use your words and communicate with one another. And, you know, that's a message I want to go out to churches everywhere. Stop and let's communicate. Let's converse with one another. And one huge thing about a conversation is not only do you get to speak, but you also have to listen. There has to be those listening. And then there's a discussion that goes on. And there has to be a mutual respect for one another. And that's the thing that NCG has begun among people, is this conversation, being respectful. You know, you share what's on your mind, but then listen. And I am so thankful to be a part of it, because I know it's going to stop all the fussing and the hitting and the childlike behavior and cause us to do some growing up together and come together.
I did want to get to a viewer comment that we had. It goes back to our comic book discussion. It says, they're also both action-packed, but while comic books have more sound effects, way more people die in the Bible. And I thought that was a pretty good statement. Just about the, you know, I can remember a time where comic books were off limits to us because it was, what's the word I'm looking for? Science fiction. It was fake. It wasn't real, you know, and we weren't allowed to.
It was secular.
Take things that were secular and not real and made up, you know,
Yeah.
and do something with them. But yet that's comparing the Bible to that
Right.
very same thing. So the message of religion should be stay away from the Bible as well. But I mean, it's true. Even in the simple comic books, I can remember after we got past that, mainly as we got older, watching Spider-Man cartoons and a lot of action hero stuff like that. And there was very little killing. Hardly ever did you see anybody die. Most of the time, the bad guy would be caught or taken to prison or whatever, but sometimes one would die. Sometimes they would die. But you can't get away from it throughout most of the Old Testament, that there's thousands, there's multitudes, generations that die at the hand of God. So,
Supposedly.
yeah, supposedly.
Well, that is a conversation that I was having earlier with one of the members here, New Covenant Group, Texas, about actually the value of humanity, the value of human beings, because this notion that was being discussed this morning, you already made reference to it, quotes from the Old Testament scriptures that say that there's none good, there's no one righteous, they've altogether become worthless. And the question was proposed to us, is that what you want to tell your grandchildren? Well, I just happen to have a number of grandchildren. I don't look at them, any of them that way. I would have to lie to them, just state that to them, and to look at my grandchildren and say, this is what the Bible says, therefore this is what God says. You're worthless. You're no good. You're not righteous, none of you. But if you take all that stuff, and it doesn't matter so much what you think of Jesus, whether you think he's a prophet, whether you think he was a good man, whether you think he's God. We do have recorded his words talking about the Father, in reference to the Father, saying, consider the bird, the sparrow. Not one of them falls, but he doesn't know about it. And then he talks about how he clothes the grass of the field. And then he brings up this notion, how much more are you worth? And it's like he's pointing up the value and what else could he be doing actually, but pointing up the value of human beings. And these are the same people that just a few days later saw to his crucifixion. So he wasn't talking to the good people. But what an incredible thing to realize that that's the way he views. But then, really, should it surprise us that much? I mean, that there's a God that actually loves what he created, and where it's broke, he can fix it. Where it needs healing, he can heal it. But he allows us, the great thing about it, and I guess this is one of those things that I've come to realize more and more, he allows us to participate. Basically, he says, come to the table, get together, settle your differences and do your part. And I like to think that, and maybe to ask this question, see how enjoyable that is. See how good it can be. Because I don't think we know yet, We've experienced a lot of hatred, a lot of warring, a lot of fussing and fighting like the kids. But how good can it actually be if we can just get beyond ourselves and sit down together and face the facts? Just learn to listen and learn. I'm looking forward to it. I don't know how many years I got left, but I know what I want to spend them doing.
You always get to bring up a song, so I'm going to bring one up.
Really? Wow. Yeah, you are my
I am. But I guess maybe because I'm a little starstruck lately, I had the opportunity to meet Casey Musgraves, and she's an up-and-coming country star.
Let's try to get her on our show, don't forget.
Well, she is up-and-coming and has a very, very busy schedule. I don't know if that will happen, but attempts will be made.
Okay.
So we'll try to have her here. But she's doing really well. But one of her songs that she wrote, it's called "Follow Your Arrow," and basically the point of the song is, don't listen to what everybody else is telling you to do, but just follow your arrow wherever it points. She talks a little bit about going to church in the song. If you go too much, you're considered a self-righteous son of a, and then she goes to a different line. It says, if you don't go enough, then you're labeled. If you can't lose the weight, you're labeled. If you lose too much weight, you're labeled. It's all about stereotypes and labels. And at one point she says, when the straight and narrow gets a little too straight, just roll up a joint. I would. But follow your arrow wherever it points. And it's a good message to follow. Just be yourself. Follow your arrow. Don't follow the mold.
Try to be something you're not.
Yeah.
Can't let the conversation die yet. We still got about 5 or 6 minutes.
Oh, really? Well, gosh, what can we talk about? Guess we could get Joshua up here to say something for us. No, you bring that up. Doesn't she have a one in the band that's a friend of ours that's from here?
Yeah.
Maybe we can get him to say something.
The guy that sings with her was one of my best friends in high school.
Yeah.
Misa. So that's how I got the opportunity to meet her. They're actually dating, but he's in the band with her. So they've been doing really good. They're touring with Kenny Chesney right now. They appeared on Ellen Wednesday. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
They're on Ellen on Wednesday. They've been on Jimmy Fallon. They've been on the Today Show. She
they
actually.
were on Sunday morning.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
missed that. I don't know what program that was, but Sunday night she was on the ACM Awards. She got nominated for 3. She was in the runnings with Miranda Lambert and Taylor Swift and several others. I'm not real big into country music, but but she's doing well. So that's an exciting thing for me right now. So. But it would be neat to have them on the show.
Yeah, we'll see, that's
They
one-
both come from religious backgrounds and know all about what we're talking about here.
Yeah, yeah. That's one of the things that, I'm enjoying now personally, just being freed up. And, I can look at other folks, I can listen to them a little bit and see what they're missing out on, because I've been there. When you're locked into, and it does, it puts mental barriers, limits, you don't allow yourself to think certain things or to um, even consider certain possibilities, even though, you may think, well, I would enjoy this or I would enjoy that, but, would God be pleased with me if I, allowed myself to go there to just enjoy some good music, what was it? Week ago Saturday, went to Southeast Texas Orchestra was performing and got there ready to buy my ticket, and some lady comes in, anybody need a ticket? And he was looking right at me and said, yeah. So I get a front row seat
Oh, wow.
and enjoy something that I played when I was in high school. And, it was very enjoyable. And I didn't feel guilty a bit, It's
Well, whenever I went to see Casey Musgraves, they had VIP tickets for me waiting at the gate when I got there. I was allowed to. It was kind of strange. I've been to concerts before, but people were opening doors for us and letting us through gates. We had free reign backstage, and it was pretty cool. Got to see the Eli Young band, and I don't know. But we enjoyed it. I don't feel bad about it.
Shame on you.
I'm ready to do it again.
Well, both of you should feel bad because I didn't get to go to either one of them.
Oh, Carrie Underwood and Martina McBride. Those were some others that she was in the category with. So, and she's actually written songs for them. Some of her songs are songs that they sing. So,
Good.
but anyway, still got about 2 minutes, but we don't have to drag it on for 2 more minutes.
Is
Y'all
that
don't
what
have
we've
any
been doing?
more songs to
I'm just
talk
kidding.
about?
No, I've enjoyed it. It's nice to be able to just sit and visit with you guys, even if it is part of our show. We don't get to do this very often off the air, so
Right.
I've enjoyed it, and I missed last week. So.
Well, I'll go ahead and say we're probably going to miss next week because we're going to try to go out West Texas and see some family and just enjoy some of that. It's been a while, and so we'll take a little break and do something we feel like we need to do. But
Sounds
we
good.
will miss being here for sure. I've gotten spoiled of this. I enjoy this.
Gonna follow our air and go west?
Go West, young man.
Go West, young man.
I knew you were going to say that. I said it first. Anyway, we want to appreciate all our viewers for tuning in, and please stay tuned because there are many more shows to come. I didn't get the layout today, but I think that at 5 o'clock it's going to be Save the Atheist. I hope I'm not mistaken there.
Right.
Between
That should
Joey
be
and
good.
Yeah.
Sure.
Joey and Greg, so that'll be interesting. Stay tuned. We missed the last ones because they're at 10 o'clock on Sunday mornings, and we have things going on here at the studio, so I'm kind of excited to watch. So
Yeah.
please stay tuned and join us again next week.